Men feel things too. I remember one day I was watching this little boy in the grocery store, and he was just crying and crying. He probably had to be about 5 or 6. And as he was sitting there crying, the more he cried, I watched his mom say, "Boy, be quiet. Stop all that crying. Stop all that crying. You acting like a little girl. Stop all that crying." I'm just like, and the more I'm hearing him cry, something on the inside is like literally bubbling up, and I'm getting angrier and angrier as I'm seeing this little boy cry in public. And I'm thinking to myself, boy, if you don't be quiet, stop all that crying. Little boys ain't supposed to cry like that. And as soon as I started feeling like this, I stopped myself and I said, wait a minute. Why am I so upset that this little boy is crying? Why am I so mad? And why am I saying that little boys aren't supposed to cry? And as I got to the car, I'm still thinking on this thing. I'm like, something ain't right. Why am I so angry that I saw this little boy crying? And I realized, because at one point I was that little boy. And I remember those same words being said to me. Stop crying. Little boys are not supposed to cry. You need to man up. Stop being so weak. Stop acting like a little girl. And the question that kept going through my mind is, what happens when you tell a little boy he can't express his feelings? Where do those feelings go? The statistics say that men and women experience the same level of emotions. This myth is not real. That women are very sensitive and emotional and men are stoic. They don't really have no emotions. They don't feel anything. They nonchalant. It is a lie. Men experience the same amount and the same intensity of feelings than women. The difference is when you've been a little boy and you've been told that you can't feel anything emotionally, we do something that I'm calling emotional code switch. What we do is we switch from this unacceptable emotion and feeling and expression of that emotion to something that is more masculine and socially acceptable. Here it is, which means instead of us showing that we're sad, all of a sudden we show that we're angry, because that is more masculine. It is more acceptable to see a man angry than to see a man sad. Instead of us feeling vulnerable, we go to something more socially acceptable, and it's pride. Because we assume that men can be prideful, it is acceptable for that. Instead of us feeling hurt, right, and expressing our hurt, what so many of us do is we abandon, we leave. For many of us, instead of feeling helpless, we shut down. I don't know who this is for, but I got some men who we haven't been told that it is okay. We haven't been given the permission that it is okay to feel emotions. And the truth of the matter is, it's sad and it's unfair, because those emotions have to go somewhere. And for so many of us, because we're holding everything in, it has become toxic. That we are now just going to the things that we feel like are acceptable. And so many men are walking around angry. But here's what I discovered about anger, that anger is a secondary emotion, which means that there is always an underlying emotion. And here's what I want to give to our men today. Take the time to be honest with yourself about what you're really feeling. And being able to recognize, okay, yeah, I know that I'm going to this anger, but what's underneath that? Am I really feeling sad? Do I got some grief right now because of I've lost someone, I've lost something? Am I walking around because I'm angry because I feel vulnerable, because I'm hurt, because I'm afraid? And you got to identify that, recognize what that underlying emotion is. And then your next step is saying, okay, so why do I feel like that? Why am I, like I did with the little boy in the store, why was I so angry? And I really wasn't angry at him. I felt sad for him. I felt sad that this little boy was going to one day grow up to be a man who did not know how to express his emotions and his feelings, and he had to do this emotional code switching to things that were more socially acceptable, even though that's not who he really was. So men, take the time and identify, recognize what the real emotion is that you're feeling beneath all of the anger, right? Beneath all the pride and the ego and all of that stuff, all of that machismo stuff. What's underneath that? And if you do that, I promise you, man, you will emotionally and mentally be in a healthier place. I'm going to be talking all week about this for our men. And I got a whole lot of other things that I want to share with you. And there's a whole toxic masculinity thing I want to talk about. But I really want to talk about in this next episode that we're going to do about cracking the code switch, cracking this emotional code switch. I promise you, because as soon as you identify, that you got anger or you got this or you got that, you got to be immediately moved to, okay, this is what's really happening. And so we're going to talk about how that physically manifests in your life too, when you do not express yourself emotionally, how there's physical pains that arise. So we'll hit all that on tomorrow. So listen, I want you to know that I am praying with you. Get a counselor. Please get a counselor, get with somebody who can help walk you through this, because we don't know how to do it as men. We usually have not been trained. We've usually not given permission to do it. So I'm going to encourage you today. I'm giving you that permission to really find out what's the underlying emotions that you've been ignoring, so that you can try to cope with, or you will try to do what is socially acceptable. I'm praying with you. I've been through it. I wrote it in my book. I recognize my book is really, it's not just my forgiveness and reconciliation with my father, but it's really my journey from being a boy to growing into a man, and how I had to deal with my emotions and my emotional trauma with my father. And it wasn't until I learned to express how I felt and I learned to identify what I was really feeling, I became healthy, and I became a better man, a better husband, and a better father, and a better leader. So listen, I'm praying for you this week. Man, keep listening. I got some more things for you. I want to say to you, fight for you. Keep fighting for you. You are worth fighting for. God bless you.